All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a story you probably didn't get in your history class, a really hidden chapter in the saga of South American independence.
We all know the big names, right? The legendary heroes like Simón Bolívar and José de San Martín. But what if I told you that their incredible victories had a secret partner, a huge one that almost nobody talks about?
Well, that secret partner was the British Empire. Yeah, you heard that right. And once you see just how involved they were, it completely changes the way you look at this entire era of history.
And get this, some of the most famous, most brilliant strategies of the entire war, I'm talking about San Martin's legendary march across the Andes to free Chile. That plan wasn't even his originally. It was a British military plan, just sitting on a shelf waiting to be used.
Okay, so you've got to be asking, why would they do this? Why would one empire help tear down another? Well, it wasn't about some noble idea of freedom. Nope, it all came down to one thing: money.
So you have this massive clash of economic philosophies. On one side, you've got Spain's system. It's a total monopoly. The colonies could only trade with Spain. But on the other side, you have Britain. They're in the middle of the Industrial Revolution, churning out goods like crazy. And they are desperate, for new places to sell all that stuff. They needed open markets.
The whole situation was basically a ticking time bomb, and the guy who lit the fuse? Napoleon Bonaparte. When his armies marched into Spain in 1808, it just shattered Spanish authority. Suddenly, there's this huge power vacuum in the Americas. And for Britain? Well, that was the opening they had been waiting for.
Now, Britain had actually tried to invade directly before, and it was a total disaster. So, they got a lot smarter. They came up with this brilliant new strategy: fight a shadow war. They would help the revolutionaries, but indirectly, building what historians now call an informal empire from a distance. So how did they pull this off? Well, their shadow war basically rested on three main pillars, and this three-pronged approach, it was incredibly effective.
Okay, pillar number one, the cash. We're talking about a staggering £21 million in government bonds issued in London. For these brand new struggling republics, this money was a lifeline. But, and this is a huge but, it also meant they were starting out in massive debt to British bankers.
All right, pillar number two, the hardware. Britain just opened the floodgates. Look at these numbers. Over 700,000 muskets. Thousands of tons of cannonballs and musket balls. This wasn't just a little help. This was industrial-scale support that turned ragtag militias into professional armies that could actually go toe-to-toe with the Spanish.
And the third pillar, maybe the most important, the people. After Napoleon was defeated, you had thousands of battle-hardened British and Irish soldiers with nothing to do. So about 7,000 of them signed up as mercenaries to fight in South America. And these guys weren't rookies. They were the real deal, instrumental in decisive battles like Boyacá and Carabobo.
And you can't talk about this without mentioning the Navy. This was Britain's superpower. They sent over guys like Lord Cochrane, a total firebrand, a brilliant but disgraced Royal Navy captain. He basically built the Chilean and Brazilian navies from nothing. And his raids, like the insane capture of the Spanish flagship Esmeralda right out of a fortified harbor, that's the stuff of legends. He gave the revolutionaries control of the Pacific, which they absolutely had to have. So, with the military situation turning, the fight moves from the battlefield to the back rooms of global politics. This is the end game, where all this covert support turns into a brilliant diplomatic checkmate.
Okay, so the war is basically won, but now there's a new problem. A bunch of powerful European countries were talking about helping Spain take its colonies back. Britain couldn't have that, so they played their trump card: diplomatic recognition. By being the first major power to say, yes, these are legitimate new countries, they boxed everyone else out. It was a geopolitical chess move to make sure no one else could interfere with their new trading partners.
And the guy behind this whole strategy, British Foreign Minister George Canning, he wasn't exactly subtle about what he was doing. He famously said, "I called the New World into existence to redress the balance of the old." I mean, talk about ambition. He's literally saying he created new countries just to shift the global balance of power in Britain's favor.
So, let's zoom out. The South American nations win. They've thrown off the chains of the Spanish Empire after centuries. It's an incredible achievement. But, and it's a big but, that victory came at a price. It came with a whole new set of strings attached. What happened was, they essentially traded one empire for another.
They got rid of the formal Spanish Empire, with its viceroys and armies, and replaced it with an informal British one, built on debt and investment. And just look at how British capital flooded into the region. It didn't just grow, it exploded. This created a new kind of dependence, an economic one.
And that's the real kicker here, because even though the flags changed, even though they had new constitutions, the basic economic structure didn't really change at all. The old colonial model of shipping raw materials out to a European power to fuel their industries, that just continued. Spain was out, but now Britain was in. And this legacy would create challenges that the region would grapple with for generations.
So this whole hidden history, this secret alliance, it really forces us to ask a tough question, one that's still relevant today. If you've won your political freedom, but your economy is still controlled by outside forces, what does it really mean to be independent?